Hi everyone, welcome to another week. As we continue discussing about fabrics, today I'm going to talk about features of various fabrics, and I hope that you'll find this information very informative. I do not want to take a lot of your time because I think I have a suspicion that the video might be way too long if I talk too much. So let's get into it. So, as someone who's been in the fashion industry for a while, one of the most difficult things is trying to figure out what fabric to use for your project. So, there is the experimental phase as a student where you see something online or you see some outfit even in a shop and you can't figure out what fabric it is, or you have an idea but you don't know the right fabric to use to do that. So it's important to know the qualities of a fabric so that it can be able to guide you to know what fabric is suitable for the project you're doing. The best way, of course, is always to experiment, and I know sometimes people don't know how they can do that because it means buying fabric that might not work and then you don't have any use for it. The truth is that if you are buying, example, if you want to do a collection and you want to do a certain design and you're not sure about which fabric to work with, but you want to buy the fabric in bulk, a lot of these fabric sellers actually have sample fabric sizes that you can buy and experiment with before you create a whole collection. So always have that in mind. If someone doesn't agree to you using a sample, then maybe you should look for somebody else. But most times, especially people who sell fabric in bulk, will give you a sample that you can test. Next week we're going to talk more about testing fabric so that you can be able to know if it's suitable for what you're doing. It could be that you're more convicted about the environmental impact of the fabric, so you want to test to see if it removes dye or if it doesn't disintegrate when it's burnt and all that. I'm going to go more into that next week, but today I wanted to focus more on just the features of a fabric so that you can be able to narrow down, do you want to go the natural way, the synthetic way, or the blend way, or what are your options? But it's just good to have the general information. I'm 100% sure I'm not going to cover everything today because technology is always advancing. There are always new fabrics, and more people are understanding that fashion is a very big pollutant. I think we're number 2, and looking for more sustainable fabrics to work with. And the truth is, I'll just tell you, the sustainable journey, making your brand sustainable, is a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you have to just take small steps to reach there. Here in Kenya, I can say that we do not have a lot of options for fabric because most fabrics are imported and we're at the mercy of what's brought here. So if you're in a country where fabric is produced, or you have more access to importing fabrics in an affordable way, as much as possible, always choose one that is going to be more durable, or going to have, if it's not as durable, at least if it's disposed of, it's not going to have a very bad impact on the environment. So those are things you need to consider when you're buying fabric and when you're deciding what fabric to work with, because these days it's way more than just having a very beautiful outfit. It's also how it impacts our environment in the long run. And if you decide to use synthetic fabric, consider making something that will last longer so that it has more wearability and not something that people will just dispose of. So I guess we begin with the slides and the differences between man-made fabrics or synthetic fabrics and natural fabrics. So let's begin. So we are going to start with natural fibers. So natural fibers are fibers that are produced by geological processes or from bodies of plants or animals. So the next slide is a chart basically showing you the different types of natural fibers. As you can see, there's a side for plants and cellulosic. I'm not really going to get into the definitions of the scientific words and stuff like that. I think
The whole point of doing a slide is so that if you really want to know, you can Google it. But I did check the definition and I was like, if I explain every single scientific word, we're going to be here forever. So please do look up these words. So there's the cotton, flax, linen, flax or linen, hemp, and then there is a soya bean, lotus, orange, rose and corn. So I do get into details of all these, so don't worry about memorizing the chart. And then there's the animal protein, animal or protein, which is wool, silk, alpaca, cashmere, angora, and then there's of course leather, which is basically the skin of animals. Then we move on to man-made fibers. There are two types of man-made fibers, synthetic fibers and regenerated semi-synthetic fibers. Out of the bat, I'll tell you what that means is that it could be a man-made fiber and it's semi-synthetic because maybe the process is the one that is not natural. The process of making the fabric that's not natural. So it's semi-synthetic, meaning that it could come from a plant, but the process uses chemicals to create it, and which is why it's semi-synthetic. And then there is the modal or like lyocell fabric. So I get also into all that in detail. So this is just the overview. So let's begin. So off the bat, we start with the natural fibers. So we start with cotton. So cotton is soft, it's durable, it's absorbent, so it also takes in dye well. That's why there are so many colors and prints of cotton. It's very breathable. It doesn't stick to you, so it doesn't have that static. And it shrinks. So most of the time when you buy 100% cotton fabric, you have to wash it first before you work with it on a project, and it does get damaged by mildew and does wrinkle easily. Next, we look at linen, which is from a plant called flax, and it's also very absorbent and breathable and allows air to pass through. Linen dries quickly, which helps it reduce heat retention in overly warm conditions. You'll find that linen is used a lot in very hot climates, especially like if you come across Ethiopian linen, the Ethiopian fabric is usually very light, very durable, but very airy. And then it also wrinkles easily. In fact, sometimes the way I can tell fabric is linen is just by how much it wrinkles. I think it wrinkles more than cotton. Next, we have hemp. Hemp generally looks like weed, as you can see from the photo there, and it is actually not a fabric that is, it's not a plant that's allowed in Kenya just because of how it looks, and I guess because people can easily abuse it, but it's very different from weed, so please do check the difference between marijuana and hemp. And the fiber is very durable, breathable. It's very abrasive unless it's blended with other fibers, and it absorbs dye well, and it also blocks UV rays, and it's hypoallergenic, meaning that you can't be allergic to it. And I think it's a very good fabric. It's something that I think our government should consider allowing, but yeah, so those are the first three natural fibers that are from a plant. So the next batch of natural fibers from plants are from things like beans, soya beans, and flowers like lotus and orange and rose and corn. So I'm just going to run over them. So soya bean, or I guess some people call it soybean, is a fiber derived from food production waste, as it is made from hulls of soya beans, and the soya fabric is very soft and feels like cashmere, and it's elegant drape like silk, and it's very absorbent, breathes well, and it's good for warm climates. Then we have lotus. Lotus is a flower. So the plant looks like a blend of linen and silk and has a wrinkle-resistant and breathable quality that gives it a molecular makeup of a lotus, given by the molecular qualities of the lotus plant. Then we have orange, and I was surprised by this one because I did not know. This must be some advanced technology, and the orange fiber are made from the silk-like cellulose yarn that can blend with the materials. And it actually comes from the juice, which even makes it more surprising. And the citrus textile features a soft, silky, hand-feel weight and can be opaque, shiny according to the production needs. Then we have the rose. So the rose fiber is a new type of fiber that comes from the rose bushes, and the fabric is smooth and nice like silk and is incredibly lustrous. The fabric is eco-friendly, biodegradable, and easy to be dyed and very fine. Also slippery and needs to be tightly woven so that it has a, like it stays sturdy, I guess. And then the rose petal fiber is extracted from the natural waste of the rose petals and bushes and stripped and processed. So lastly, we have corn. Here we call it maize, I guess, depends on where you're coming from. And it's made out of the corn fiber. I'm sure you've seen when maize is growing, and they're usually those strands of brown fibers that grow from the maize plant. This is what that is made from. And you can see it's very flame retardant, meaning it doesn't get fire quickly. It's very outstanding moisture management. It has very low odor retention. That means it doesn't allow smell to stay on it. And it's very comfortable. And the fiber filament has subtle luster and fluid drape. So those are the plant-based fibers. I hope you've learned something, and I'm sure there's so much more that I haven't covered, but I'd really like to get into the animal-based one so that you can also have more natural fibers to compare. Now we move to natural fibers that come from animals. It could be the animal hide or the skin, or it could be a byproduct from the animal, like the way sheep have wool or goat hair that's used to make cashmere, or silk that's made from a silkworm, etc, etc. So let's get into it. I will not really get into the skin like the leather, because I am eventually going to do a whole episode on leather and different types of leather and all that. So I'm only going to share about the byproducts from animals. So we're going to start off with wool. Wool is commonly obtained from sheep, and it is soft to touch, provides warmth in cold because its natural insulation properties. So basically that's what it helps sheep with. It is ideal fiber for cool climates. So anyway, it's very cold or cool, it's very good. It has elasticity and it's good to drape and can easily be dyed in different colors. So it makes it very suitable for winter wear. And the most common type of wool that's used is from merino sheep, and it's the softest wool in the world, and it's also flame resistant and can self-extinguish. So I hope you are also getting some of those tips, because those are some of the properties that you will learn that helps you know qualities of certain fabrics. So the next one we're going to look at is cashmere. Cashmere is a type of wool that is made from cashmere goats and pashmina goats, and it's actually the natural fiber, and it's a very extremely soft. So basically it's from the goat hairs. It's significantly lighter and warmer than sheep's wool, and sometimes there are blends of this wool so that it can just get more weight, because if you leave it on its own it's very light, and because the cashmere fibers are very fine and thin. Then there is silk, and silk comes from silkworm, and it's incredibly soft and shiny, and it's very high end and lustrous because of the process of how it's produced. It is very strong, but it really diminishes its strength when it's wet. So most times you are told you need to dry clean the fabric, do not wash it. It has a lot of flexibility and elasticity, and it's very absorbent, and it shrinks when it's washed, which is why it's dry cleaned. So yeah, so that's in a nutshell, that is the animal fibers. And now we move to man-made fibers. Man-made fabric. So man-made fabrics are fabrics that are generally made from chemicals or something from nature that goes through a chemical process to create a fabric. So mostly probably made in a lab, and it's also used a lot to blend with natural fabric so that they complement each other on their weaknesses. So we start with polyester. As you can see, polyester is made from petrochemicals like coal and petroleum, and it is very durable, but it's not breathable. And it also very popular for blending to strengthen other fabrics. So that's why I've seen a lot of polycotton fabrics, which usually means it's polyester cotton with cotton that is breathable and polyester is not breathable, and or cotton that is not as it shrinks and is not as strong. Maybe polyester will make it stronger, so that's the gist of it. But you can also just get pure polyester fabric. Next, we have nylon, and nylon fibers are exceptionally strong and elastic and stronger than polyester. The fibers are excellent toughness, abrasion resistant, and easy to wash and to dye in a wide range of colors, and the filament yarns provide a smooth, soft, and lightweight fabric of high resilience. It sounds almost perfect, but we know it's not perfect because it's synthetic. Anyway, the next is acrylic, and acrylic is created from petrochemicals just like the way polyester is, and it is a synthetic type of wool. I have seen this a lot. Even though at the time I used to braid my hair with acrylic, so it is supposed to kind of copy wool. It tends to peel, so I guess it removes those balls you see when you're washing your clothes. It has low allergy and it's non-biodegradable, so that means that acrylic does not break down after you throw it away. So how you dispose of it is very important. Then we have acetate. Acetate is a man-made spun filament of cellulose taken from wood pulp. So it's classified as a chemical fiber textile or semi-synthetic. So it is semi-synthetic because of the fact that it comes from wood pulp. It is sometimes mixed with silk, wool, or cotton to make it stronger. It drapes well, hangs well, has multiple sheens and color options, and it's quick dyeing fabric. So most of the time you realize that when a fabric takes dye quickly, you'll find that there are usually many versions of it. It is moth and mildew resistant, so that means moths can't eat it, then get mildew, and has low static, and it doesn't stick to your skin and it doesn't remove any balls or whatever. And it has no elasticity, and it does rip easily and melts when heated. And then lastly, in the series now I'm going to talk about spandex and lycra because this is very popular, especially for sportswear, and it is very elastic and it's made from a combination of polyester and polyurethane, a flexible plastic material. So lycra is a trademark, so there are people who specifically own this, so you just can't go making it, you just can't find it anywhere. So that in a nutshell is man-made fabric. Now I'll touch on a few semi-synthetic fabric. So now we get into the semi-synthetic fabric, and these are fabrics that are made from, they could be made from a natural fiber, but there is a chemical process that it has to go through to be made into a fabric. So that is why it's semi-synthetic. So we start with rayon, and rayon is made from purified cellulose fibers, which are typically created from wood pulp. Though rayon is derived from natural materials, it requires certain chemicals, so it is considered a semi-synthetic fabric. One of the most common types of rayon is viscose rayon, which has a lot in common with cotton. It's breathable, moisture absorbent, and popular choice for casual athletic wear, and it drapes well. So one thing I will say here is that you will find that some people make underwears from rayon, despite the fact that we are always advised to wear cotton, and it's because of those similar properties. But because of the process that rayon goes through to be made. That is why generally it's not usually advisable for you to wear a lot of underwears made from rayon. That is just to point that out. So the next fabric is viscose, and viscose is made from wood pulp that is used as a silk substitute, as it has similar drape and smooth feeling luxury material. It is a silk-like fabric and is appealing because it is cheaper to produce. And viscose is very versatile as well, so for various clothes. And lastly, I'm going to talk about Modal, and Modal is a semi-synthetic fabric made from beech tree pulp. Just check where beech tree comes from. And it is a form of rayon, another plant-based textile. Though it is slightly more durable and flexible than rayon, it is often blended with other fibers like cotton, spandex for added strength. It is considered luxurious textile thanks to both the soft feel and the high cost, and it's more expensive than cotton or viscose. So that is it. This is the end of the fabric series. I just think it's enough to just give you a snippet of what to look for in fabric. And yeah, so let's conclude.
I hope that the information you got today has been helpful, and next week we are going to talk more about, we're going to get a bit more in depth as well about the fabrics mentioned today. We're going to talk about the tests you can do to check if the fabric is a blend or it's natural or man-made synthetic fabric. So also sometimes the tests, what they help with is that you can be able to gauge the environmental impact of the fabric. I know that not everybody really likes to test fabric, but sometimes it's important, especially if you want to create something in bulk and you want to be sure that you're using the same fabric throughout. It's always important to test the fabric so that you know exactly the fabric you want to use. That's one of the reasons. Another thing is also just consistency, especially if you are getting it from a manufacturer and they change something on the fabric they've been sending you, can be able to tell by testing. So I think it's always important to test. There are ways you could buy fabric swatches. Fabric swatches are basically just a small piece of sample fabric. We call them swatches, and a lot of fabric manufacturers do have those. Some give it free and just ask you to ship, and others actually sell them because not everybody who asks you for a sample wants to buy the fabric. So some people sell them, some people will ship for free, some people will ship for you for free if you've been buying from them. So it really just depends on the relationship you have with the manufacturer. There is a website that I would recommend you can check out called Fabric Site. I'll write it here. Fabric Site, according to what they've written on their website, is that they are very pro-sustainable fabric, so they're a good website to check out, and they have all sorts of fabrics, different types, different weights, because you know there's also the factor of weight. I think it's just best to check it out, and they don't have minimums, so I think that's usually good for people who want to do small projects. They don't have minimums. They say they ship all over the world. I don't know really. Some people say all over the world, and then they put Africa like it's not part of the world. But anyway, it's always good to check. I know that at least here in Kenya, shipments from China have become more frequent because of just the trade we do with China. We have a lot of trade between China, so getting things from China is not as difficult. Sourcing from someone who has sustainable fabrics from China is what's difficult, because you need to actually go there and check just generally their process, so that you can be sure that they actually follow sustainable practices. But generally, as I said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Even settling on a fabric can take a very long time. So not everyone is also going to be very forthright with their process, so also be ready for that. But the truth is that the world is becoming more conscious, and even buyers ask those questions, and even people want to know the origin of fabric, like even if it was where it was farmed, the condition it was farmed in, if a lot of pesticides were used, all that. And there are some fabrics that actually affect people's skin because of the chemicals that were used to basically preserve them and everything like that. So always be aware. Please don't just buy something because it's pretty be very conscious, be very intentional with understanding where your fabric comes from. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Welcome new subscribers. Thank you for all the support I'm getting on the videos. Please continue to like, share, and if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. And I guess I'll see you next week. Bye.